April 2016, another successful day trading on the live stream. I was up $4,000 and my students were watching intently, and then came the knock. The kind that makes your heart stop. Through my window, flashlights pierced through the darkness. Police. My past had finally caught up with me. I looked at my friend across the room and told him to hit the ground. And as we laid there in silence, flashlights scanned through the windows, heavy footsteps circled the house, along with the sound of walkie-talkies beeping. On one screen, I was teaching others how to trade and making clean money, but outside my door, my past was here, and it wasn't leaving. I thought about running, but I had a family. I had a daughter, and for the first time in my life, I had built something real. Something that actually helped people instead of hurt them. And the next day, they came back with a warrant. And as they laid me out in handcuffs, I watched as they confiscated my trading computer and repeatedly asked me where the Bitcoin was. But now I was facing 15 years in prison. This isn't just another story about mistakes and consequences. This is a story about what happens when your darkest moment becomes your greatest opportunity. But first, to understand how I ended up here, live streaming my trading session with police beating down my door, we need to go back to when my family had everything, and then lost it all.
With which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere, essentially.
Technology sectors, Apple's under pressure.
Stock market is now down 21%.
2008. I was just a kid when I watched my family's world collapse. The financial crisis didn't just take our nice house or our nice cars or force my mom to go back to work. It did something deeper. It taught me my first lesson about money, and that without it, everything can disappear overnight. I still remember asking my dad why this happened to us, how could this happen, and all he ever would say is, money, you wouldn't understand. And he was right, I didn't understand, but I made a promise to myself. I would never be powerless like that again. When teachers asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I only had one answer, rich. But that obsession with money, well, it would lead me down a dark path before I found the right way to success. Looking back, I had what most would call the perfect American childhood. I had a beautiful home in the South and two parents who poured everything they had into raising me. My mom, well, she was pure love. The kind of mother who made you believe that you could touch the stars if you just reached high enough. I remember she'd always tell me with bright eyes and a loving voice to shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'd land among the stars. She gave up her whole life, her own career and everything to be there for every moment. Every baseball game, every sprained ankle, she was always there. And her unwavering belief in me planted a seed, which was the dangerous confidence that I could achieve anything. And then there was my dad. Where my mom was love and encouragement, he was pure intensity. A corporate salesman who demanded excellence in everything. Second place is just first loser, he'd always say. If I lost a fight at school or wasn't the best athlete on the team, well, I'd better be ready for the consequences at home. And it may sound harsh, but that pressure is what gave me the resilience that I would so desperately need later on in my life. And together they created this perfect bubble for a child to live in. Upper middle class, nice house, good school. I mean, it was the American dream, and I thought things would never change. And then 2008 hit. It wasn't just numbers on a screen or headlines in the news. It was watching my dad's face as he told us we had to leave our home. It was seeing my mom, who'd given up everything to raise me, forced to go back to work. It meant changing schools, moving to the poor side of town, watching everything that my parents had built vanish. And in the blink of an eye, I learned that security, well, it was just an illusion. That everything you think is stable can disappear overnight. But more importantly, I learned something that would drive me for years to come. And that was that in this world, money isn't just currency, it's power. And I was determined to never feel powerless again. That move to the poorer side of town, well, it wasn't just a change of address. It was the beginning of my path down the wrong road. At 12 years old, with both parents now working endless hours to keep us afloat, I found new teachers, the older kids next door. I still remember my first hit of weed behind that new house, and it marked the moment that everything shifted. It wasn't even about getting high. I was too young to even want that, but it was more about feeling in control of something. By the 8th grade, I'd figured out my first business model. And that was that selling weed meant I could smoke it for free. Simple economics, right? But that simple start spiraled into something much darker. Fights became routine, multiple arrests for possession, public intoxication. It was first weed and then it led to pills. Xanax took over, and with it went chunks of my memory. Entire years lost to a haze that I still can't fully piece together. And looking back, it's a miracle that I even survived, because I watched my friends get locked up, I watched people die from overdoses, and some people just disappear into their addictions. And every single time that I got arrested, I would see the pain in my mother's eyes. And I would always remember her words about shooting for the stars. And by the time that I was 19, I knew that I had to escape. California seemed like the answer. A fresh start, grow a legal weed farm. It was ironic because I was trying to go legitimate in the same business that had started my downfall, but around the same time, something else caught my eye, which was crypto. I first learned about it from guys using it for darknet transactions like the Silk Road.
Documents say Silk Road sold $1.2 billion worth of drugs and illegal services.
Silk Road has been shut down. It doesn't mean that this concept is going to go away very easily.
Payment system is all through bitcoins, which is basically digital currency, not backed up by any international banks, not backed up by any US banks, but simply based on the confidence of the users who exchange these bitcoins computer to computer.
So I started buying Bitcoin with cash in person using something called local Bitcoin. I don't even know if that's still a thing, but there was something once where you could either Western Union people money or buy Bitcoin with cash, and that's what I used. And I didn't know it then, but this was the first step that I had towards trading, even if I was approaching it from the wrong decision. Now, California seemed like my salvation, a fresh start, 3,000 miles from all the mistakes that I'd ever made. But I quickly learned that starting over just isn't as simple as changing your zip code. I land there with no connections, no plans, nothing but some ignorant determination and an aspiration to break into the legal weed business. My strategy was pretty simple. I would just scroll through Craigslist ads to find grow equipment for sale, meet strangers in parking lots to buy it, and then try to network my way into the business by doing literally anything to get my foot into the door. It was desperate and it was reckless, but I had no other option. So I started driving weed around for growers or started trimming or doing all these random things just to meet people. And then finally I met an OG grower who was willing to teach me the game. He didn't offer me money, but he offered me something far more valuable, which was knowledge. And in this business, yes, that was worth way more than money. So I spent most of my days alone, working my hands raw in the California sun. I remember dragging smart pots, which are these canvas pots that you use to grow weed outside. And I remember dragging them so much my knuckles, even with gloves, were just raw. But it didn't matter because for the first time in my life, I was building something real, something legitimate, my own farm, my own operation. And while it wasn't glamorous, yeah, most days I was covered in dirt, working from sunrise to sunset in the 100-degree heat, but it was honest work. And I thought I'd finally found my path. I did this for a couple years and I thought, I've got it all figured out. This is my career. I ended up with my own farm and my own operation, and then one night, everything changed. I was in my room playing Call of Duty, the same mindless routine that I'd fallen into after all the long days in the field, and my girlfriend at the time walked in with a look on her face that says, this isn't gonna be a casual conversation. I told her, hold on, just let me finish this match. And she cut me off by saying, I'm pregnant. And from that moment, my entire world shifted. The farm, the fresh start, all my plans, suddenly none of it really seemed big enough for what was coming, because I was going to be a father. 2017, the dangers of my lifestyle felt much more real after my daughter was born. All the stories about local farmers either getting robbed or even killed, it just had me nonstop thinking of how the hell do I get out of this business? Every single noise in the night, every play that I had to go out and make, it all created this new level of anxiety now that I had a child. And while I knew I needed out, I had no idea how I was gonna walk out of this business that I'd poured everything into. I mean, I'd done everything for years to build this. But the other farmers, they kept talking about crypto. And these guys, what they were doing was they were making money on the dark web, using Bitcoin and Monero for all their transactions. And while this didn't really excite me or interest me because I wanted to get out of things, what it did do was kept reminding me of crypto. It kept reminding me to keep buying more crypto, to keep learning more about crypto, because at this time, it's the only thing I knew. I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any job experience. I didn't want to go get a normal job. I wanted to do things on my own. And even though my money was thin, because everything I had was tied up in this farm waiting for harvest, and maybe it was depression, maybe it was intuition, I don't know, but I took all of the cash that I had other than money for living expenses and I just put it all into crypto, because I knew that I needed to do this if I had any chance of it making money for me. And at this point, crypto had started to move up a little bit, but all of them kept saying that, you know, this is gonna be huge, it's the next big thing, this is the new money. And then it happened. It actually happened, this 2017 crypto bull run. Suddenly, overnight, I was rich, well over a couple of months. But this was the kind of rich that I had dreamed about since I watched my family lose everything in 2008. And I called my family, I told everybody said, you need to sell it, you gotta get out of this, you be smart, invest it. And I said, I'm not just gonna sit on this. I wanted to learn how to grow it. And that's how I got into trading. YouTube videos, courses, books. I bought everything that I could get my hands on and consumed it endlessly. I moved all my crypto to Binance, sold it, thinking that I found my ticket out of the game and I was gonna now trade and swing and day trade. And I finally had this way out of this life. And I had it all figured out. I had no idea how wrong I was or how much money I would have to lose over the next couple of years before learning how to trade. So in early 2018, I had it all figured out and I made what seemed like the responsible choice, moving back east to be closer with my family. I mean, after all, my daughter deserved to grow up around her grandparents and her family, and I convinced myself that I could juggle it all. Transition out of the weed game, become this master day trader, be a present father. Seemed easy, right? Wrong.
Greatest scam in history, noting that it is a pump and dump scheme unlike anything the world has ever seen.
There's no relation between value and usefulness.
Any value at all, it's even worse than gold. I want to be sure.
What you're seeing now, from my view, is a bit of panic selling.
I'll never forget how bad that crypto bear market destroyed me. I was under this impression that this was decentralized money, the markets would never stop going up. And every trade that I made, every coin that I chased, it always ended up in a massive loss. Even if I was in profit at one point, I would still hold it and over risk because I had no real strategy. I had no risk management. I just had gotten lucky and made a ton of cash, which gave me all this false confidence to think that I knew what I was doing. So not only did I watch the money that I made from crypto evaporate, it was all the money that I made from the farm and trapping and all this stuff. It all had just completely faded away. At first, being home felt right. I had family dinners, I was watching my daughter grow up. I had glimpses of this normal dream life, but I was living two realities. I was at home with my daughter in the day, and I was still in the streets at night. The game isn't just something that you fade away from slowly or transition out of. Either you're in or you're out. And as much as I lied to myself and said that I was out, I was still very much in. And then came the night that nearly ended my life. I was set up and robbed by people that I had once called brothers. And I wasn't prepared for this, so I didn't have any way to defend myself, and they held me at gunpoint, zip-tied me, beat me within an inch of my life to get what they wanted. You see, whenever you're in this life, money makes you a target, and there's no such thing as brotherhood. I didn't understand that because I was too naive, but they left me there, blood pooling on the floor, ears ringing, barely conscious, with the door laying on the ground from where they'd kicked it off the hinges. You know that saying, when it rains, it pours? Well, it was definitely pouring because shortly after, I got arrested for possession of marijuana with intent to resell. This wasn't even about me at this point. One more beating, one more arrest, and my daughter might grow up without a father. I had to get out of the game completely. I had to give it up. So I knew I needed a legitimate job, but my resume was pretty much blank. I was 22, had no prior experience, no references, just a bunch of past and mistakes that I was trying to escape. And that's when I remembered my dad's constant advice over the years. If you just gave your all into sales instead of this business, you'd do great. And I remember him always saying that. So scrolling through Indeed looking for jobs one night, I saw it. Solar sales, make 6 figures per year. And this listing made it sound like some golden career, like I was gonna start this grand corporate career. But the reality was, it was a position for a door-to-door appointment setter where I would trudge through neighborhoods in the rain, getting doors slammed in my face all day long. And every single door shutting was a reminder that I didn't belong in the real world, that I should just go back to selling drugs like I was good at. But something inside me didn't want to quit. So I started devouring sales books. In between knocking doors, I'd listen to podcasts, and I would sit there and even practice my pitch in the mirror. It was the same way that I did with trading, but my heart wasn't in it. And all I could think about was trading because I hated this so much. I remember sitting and scrolling charts on my phone and entering positions that I shouldn't have even been in while I was trying to walk and knock doors because that's all I wanted to do. So I couldn't get it. I would set some appointments and get through some doors, but then they would never sell. So I was pretty much ready to quit, and I asked my boss what I should do. And that day, he taught me more about sales than any other education, amount of books that I had read in just a couple of minutes. And what he said was that all sales is helping a person understand their needs and then connecting to them on an emotional level. And that you have to be personal. You can't be a salesman. You can't feel like a salesman because then it's salesy. No one likes to be sold. So I completely redid my pitch and started thinking differently about the way to connect with people and just be genuine. I didn't want to overthink it and be this, hey there, how you doing today? I had to redo everything. And shocker, suddenly everything started to work. Not only was I getting in the door more, I was actually setting deals that were closing. So then I wanted to get promoted to closer. I told them, I don't want to just keep knocking doors. I was the best setter in the entire company, not just my office. And at this point, they knew they had to promote me. Now within months, not only was I leading the office in sales, but I was breaking company records. Now I had money to fuel my trading again, and I deposited every spare dollar into my account in an attempt to get rich like I had before. And it was this vicious cycle: make money in sales, deposit in a trading account, blow account, repeat. And the same drive that had pushed me in my past life was now fueling real career success. I was climbing the corporate ladder so quickly, I started thinking, why not just start my own company? Genius, right? So I broke off, researched how to start an LLC, and Blue Ridge Solar was born. The early days of my company showed extreme promise. I was making sales and I was doing well in terms of execution, but what I didn't understand about legitimate business came back to bite me. I didn't plan properly. I didn't know what I was doing. Solar laws changed in North Carolina. The contracts fell through. And just like that, another one of my dreams had crashed and burned. The final blow came when the mother of my daughter and I split up. And now I had not only lost my business and all my money, but I had lost my family. I didn't even feel like a failure at this point anymore. I felt like less of a man. And I would just sit and think about my dad and how he was able to hold our family together through what we went through, which was way worse. And he kept his dignity and he was a great man. But me, well, I was just watching everything in my life completely unravel. And then something just snapped at me. All the pain of failure, it all twisted into this dangerous kind of determination. I convinced myself that going bigger in the game was the only way to ever get the money that I needed in order to trade in the big leagues. So this wasn't even about survival anymore. It was about making so much money that I never needed the trap again. And I dove in head first. But this time was different. The risks I was taking were massive. Every single move was bigger than anything that I'd ever tried before. I risked everything on every trip, everything that I was doing, and I justified it all. I said one more big run, and then I'd pour all the money into my trading account and break free from the trap forever. That was just a lie that I told myself. The truth was, I was addicted to the lie. I became that guy that was in the clubs. I was throwing money, living life like Grand Theft Auto. I was that cool guy that everybody wanted to be around. Drugs, drinks, girls. It was just a big blur of fake happiness. I risked my life every single day at this point, and I was way past the point of no return. And then 2020 hit, and this is where everything exploded. The cops started raiding everyone under me, one by one, and the rumor was that I was this target of some massive investigation that they really wanted. And I knew that when your own people start turning, the walls close in fast. So I booked a one-way flight to the only place I knew, California. I've always tried to find the silver lining in things, so I looked at this like the best opportunity to finally master the markets. I rented this place and bought a trading setup. I didn't even get any other furniture. I just had my bed and my desk. And the markets became my entire world. Because at this point, it was the only shot I had at cleaning things up. And by this point, I was finally making some money trading, but I was boom or bust. I had massive wins, but they would be followed by equally or worse massive losses. The same aggressive mindset that got me in trouble was now getting me in trouble in the markets. And then one night, mindlessly scrolling through Snapchat, I saw it like it was a sign from God. There was this ad for Playbit, which was a trading Discord. And looking back, it was almost destiny. Here I was hiding out in California, seeing an ad from a major weed influencer, but instead of weed, it was trading. I had never even heard of Discord communities, and I had no idea that this world existed. And I'd bought many courses, but something about this, it just felt different. This wasn't just some course or get-rich-quick scheme. This was a real community, real traders that were sharing knowledge and value. I mean, it was a real brotherhood. I could see from the Snapchat stories there were people in the chats, everybody was making money. So I messaged them immediately. If I could somehow dodge prison and dodge this investigation, if I got one more chance at life, I knew that trading had to be my way out. And little did I know, this wasn't just another fresh start. This was where everything would finally change. I remember whenever I joined Playbit in 2020, I thought I already knew how to trade. The reality was that I was just a gambler who had big enough balls to take risks. And sure, I could spot a bull flag or an ascending triangle and sometimes make money, but it was just pure luck combined with this dangerous level of risk and confidence that I shouldn't have even had. I didn't understand position sizing, risk management. I didn't even understand what probabilities were. And this is why I'd blown through hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, mistaking luck as a skill, having false confidence, and continuously repeating this cycle over and over and over again. Being one of Playbit's first members turned out to be a blessing. It was small, tight-knit, it was nothing like the massive communities you see today. And for the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who were making serious money without having to look over their shoulders or do illegal stuff. There was no trap phones, no running around making plays, no endless paranoia. These traders were pulling in more money than I'd ever seen in the trap, but they did it from their computers drinking coffee and listening to lo-fi instead of working a scale all night long and running around the streets. These guys were making six figures in a single week, some of them in a single trade, and they were doing it legally. They weren't worried about getting raided or robbed. I mean, their biggest concern was managing risk and developing themselves as a person. And under Playboy's guidance, all the years of expensive lessons, every mistake that I'd made, it all started finally making sense. So he completely took me under his wing. He answered any question, no matter how stupid or basic it was, and he made sure that I knew what I was doing in order to make money. Now, the most important thing that he helped me understand, which is crazy that I didn't know, is that you don't have to get good enough to be right every time. It's not about being right every time, it's about being right over time and executing consistently no matter if you win or lose. and you have to have confidence in what you're doing. But all those times that I'd blown up at this point, they weren't just losses anymore. This was all the tuition that I had paid to lessons that I previously didn't understand, but now it was all coming together. And for the first time, I wasn't just throwing money at the market hoping for a win or getting lucky. I was conducting myself like a professional, one trade at a time, managing risk, and that same drive that had pushed me in the game was now pushing me into something legit, and it was actually working. And very quickly, I started seeing real results. By December 2020, only a couple months after joining, I nearly had doubled my account. But this wasn't like my previous lucky wins. Instead of gambling it all back or blowing up, I was able to steadily grow it. Every single trade that I took was calculated, every position was sized properly, and for the first time, I was actually building wealth and trading correctly instead of just playing the lottery. Even with this constant shadow of impending doom hanging over me, I remember the late nights watching the charts and the Crypto Vibes voice chat with all my new friends. That gave me happiness that I hadn't had in many years. And what began as desperation turned into the biggest trading run of my life up until this point. And everyone noticed, not just my wins that I was posting, but the reasoning behind each trade, because I shared literally everything in the chats. And soon, other members were following my trades and asking to learn the strategy that I was using. And Playboy quickly saw what was happening. He offered me free lifetime access to the group so long as I'd share my trades with everyone. He didn't even offer me money, and I didn't care, because for the first time in my life, I was making money doing something I loved, legally, and on top of that, it was something that actually helped people, which I had never done up until this point. I mean, sure, I made money and made other people money, but I never really helped anybody, and in fact, the stuff that I did before probably made a negative impact. So to have a purpose, after years of running from my past, and to have an environment where I could build a future, that was the most amazing feeling on earth. And little did I know I would find this in a Discord chat room, and it's funny looking back, but it was real, man. You know, like that was my family at the time. And they gave me this role to call trades and stream my screen while I did it. This wasn't just about taking my own trades anymore, it was about helping others how to trade too, right? Because for years I had been doing this. Most of these people were new because of COVID. Everybody just got into the markets. But I had been doing this for years and had made every mistake in the book, so I looked at it like I could save people from making those same mistakes and make great money while doing it, and have something that drown out all of the stress and all the anxiety that would creep in anytime that my mind wasn't focused on something. So month after month, I kept growing my account, calling all my trades live in the Discord. I woke up every single day excited. I was excited to trade and hang out in the Discord chat with my friends. It was like I was a kid playing Call of Duty when everybody came home from school. I mean, it was the adult version of that. But all this success, I mean, it just felt hollow. I didn't have my family. I didn't have anything I knew. I mean, sure, I had online friends and Playbit, but sitting alone in that California house, watching charts, while always looking over my shoulder, freaking out and having anxiety attacks, and just knowing, well, this wasn't really the life that you dream about. And then came the night that changed everything. I was in the middle of a stream, recapping trades with my group, when that banging started. And I mean, it was the heavy and fast knocks that make your whole stomach drop. Flashlights started coming through the window, and my heart dropped. It was the cops. So I whispered to my friend who was across the room and I told him, hit the ground. I muted my Discord mic, I shut my laptop, and we laid there in silence for what seemed like a fucking lifetime. I can still remember the wood floor was cold pressed against my face, and all the sounds of walkie-talkies beeping and all the cops walking around the house. But after a few minutes, I realized they didn't have a warrant yet, or they would kick the door down. So we just had to wait it out. And those minutes that we were waiting, it felt like an eternity. So finally they left, and I told my friend to get out of here. He told me that I had to go on the run. That was crazy if I didn't. And I was in Southern California, not far from the border, so after all, I thought about why not? And I could just disappear, start over somewhere as someone else and trade crypto. But of course, I started thinking about my daughter and my family, and I knew I couldn't run. That was not the kind of man I was gonna be. And after I collected myself and made my decision, for the first time, I made the decision to face things head on. There was no more running. And the next day, they came back with a warrant. SWAT team busting in the house from every entrance, flashlights and guns in my face, and as they led me out in handcuffs, I watched as they confiscated the same trading computer that just a couple hours ago I was streaming on in the Discord. My house was clean, but it didn't matter. My past had finally caught up with me. They told me I was charged with conspiracy to traffic 300 pounds of marijuana, conspiracy to traffic 300 grams of cocaine, and money laundering. My life was over. I can still hear the sound of the metal doors slamming behind me at the Riverside County Jail. Being a fugitive from out of state, well, that earns you a spot in the gang unit. And I shared a cell with a giant guy who paced endlessly, constantly mumbling to himself and twitching as if he was some kind of creature from a horror movie. And as I laid on my bunk, watching him walk back and forth and back and forth, I tried to process, how in the fuck did I get here? Next was the call to my parents. Now, I'd heard my mother cry before, whenever we lost everything, when I was younger and I got arrested, but this was different. This was more of like a shriek, and I remember I could hear her screaming and it echoed on the phone. As she dropped the phone, I could hear it hit the ground, and I'll never forget just how low I felt. And then my dad, who always was this stone cold, serious guy, I could literally hear his voice shaking. I mean, he wasn't outright crying, but I could see his face with a tear trembling down it. That's how it sounded when he talked. And this cut me deeper than any times that I'd been beaten with in my life, any losses I'd taken. It cut me deeper than any material thing ever could. At this point, I'd spent years and pretty much my entire life running from consequences. But in that moment, hearing my mom's cries echo, hearing my dad's voice shake, it all hit me at once. Because up until now, I could kind of sweep it under the bed. And that's what I did. I would, I'd run from one thing, run to the next, move to the next hustle. And it was like this compounding, impending doom that had built up to this breaking point. And up until then, I drowned it out with partying, I drowned it out with money, I drowned it out with drugs or girls or whatever it was. But at this point, there was no more running. And those nights in that jail were endless. Like, I could sit there all night, try to sleep, which was a joke. I'll never forget that during one of the phone calls with my mom, I'm on the phone with her, we're just talking, and you heard this loud bang and a lot of yelling. And I was like, no way. The fucking cops are raiding my mom's house while I'm on the phone with her. So she didn't even have time to hang up the phone. And I just knew, like, at that moment, like, my mom, she's the sweetest, sweetest lady you'd ever meet. And I just knew how scared they were. And I knew that they didn't deserve that. Like, they never wanted that. They tried their best to raise me good. And knowing that I put them through that, the same, whenever I got raided, it wasn't the first time I'd had my door kicked in. It wasn't the first time I had guns in my face. But my mother, my sweet mother, having to deal with that, that was just a new level of low for me. So after a couple weeks in California, they transported me back home. And when I finally got bailed out, I literally had nothing. I had nothing except the clothes on my back, and they brought sandals from my house. It was almost like they wanted to insult me. I had all these shoes they could have brought, because when they raided me, they picked shoes to bring, and they brought fucking sandals. Like, really? I had basketball shorts, a t-shirt, and sandals. So everything I owned was either in that house or seized by police. And then I'll never forget that first court day. It hit me like a fucking haymaker whenever my lawyer told me. Because at this point, I guess I didn't really think it was, I guess you're in this state of shock, but I remember my lawyer telling me that the state is seeking 15 years minimum. And at that point, it felt like I had been sentenced. It felt like you were at the doctor and they said you had 6 months to live. The reality hadn't really hit me until this moment. But for the first time, I truly understood what I was facing. Now, I'd been at rock bottom many times before, but this was far below that. This was watching everything I'd built, every step I'd made towards cleaning up, just disappear in an instant. My success in trading, the community I'd built, the future that I could finally see clearly, gone. So at this point, I approached everything with a new mindset. And in my trading, I looked at it like, I have X amount of time to live, and I have to make everything count. I can't fuck up, I can't be stupid, I have to make money so my daughter has a nest egg, because if I'm not gonna be here to take care of things, I'll be damned if I don't leave enough behind to at least get them as far as possible. I mean, I felt like as a man, that was my duty, so I immediately went into this animalistic primal mode where nothing fucking mattered. I snapped. But in a way, this complete betrayal, it became my strength because I had no one. I had no one to trust, I had no one to talk to, I had no one to hang out with, so I poured everything I fucking had into the markets. And at this point, I knew I could trade. I'd already proven it to myself. I had already made great money trading, I was trading live in front of people. So every morning that I sat down at my desk, I was like this sociopath that I didn't care if I lost or won or anything. I was completely detached. I mean, every single decision was leading up to what I was gonna be able to leave my daughter. At this point, I had completely disconnected from reality. I was operating in this strange space where nothing felt real. No pain, no happiness. I felt like I was a ghost. I felt like nothing was real. I didn't have any emotions, right? And oddly, this detachment made me a much better trader because I didn't have any fear. I didn't care. I knew that it was over for me. That's how I literally looked at it. And when you don't have any emotional attachment to money, you don't make a lot of the mistakes that you'd usually make because trading isn't as hard as you think. It's more so handling yourself. And then I'll never forget this girl. She walked into my life, and she was different from anyone I'd ever met. She didn't have any tattoos, she didn't have the party lifestyle, she had a college degree, and she had a promising career ahead of her. And for the first time in my life, a woman was interested in me for who I was, and not what I could provide or the lifestyle that I lived. And she knew everything. She knew the charges, she knew the potential prison time, she knew all of it. And for whatever reason, or whatever she saw in me, she still stayed. I remember she told me that she had a job offer that was gonna have her move away from home, and I somehow managed to convince her, instead of taking that job, to believe in me and move out of our hometown with me, and we would build a new life together. And somehow I was able to convince her to do this. The universe always has this sick sense of humor, or at least it felt like it in my life at that time. Because just as I found somebody worth fighting for, my lawyer dropped a bomb. And that was that I needed a real job to stay out on bond. I guess that trading crypto futures on Binance doesn't count in the judge's eyes as a real job, apparently. But the thought of giving up and going back into the workforce, that was unacceptable. My only shot was trading. My only shot at really making any money to be able to save up for my daughter or anything was trading. I couldn't do that at some shit job that was gonna accept a felon. But I told my lawyer that, and we went back and forth, and then he suggested a loophole. He said, why don't you start your own business? And this is an example of how the biggest opportunities can come disguised as obstacles. Late 2021, I was desperately thinking of business ideas. I thought of drop shipping, e-com, I thought of everything, right? Something that I could do to satisfy the court while still allowing time for trading. And sales wasn't an option because this was gonna consume all my time. And then one day, an idea was born through a random call with a friend who owned a dump truck company. I remember he was like, you should buy a truck, talking about like it was a hamburger or something. And then he mentioned something that caught my attention. He said 18-wheelers is where the real money was. He knew the business in and out. We just didn't have the money to really take things off. All I had was the money in my trading account, and that felt like the end of the world to pull that money out, because the whole reason I was trying to start a job was so I could still trade. But then boom, it hit me. I didn't need to use my own money. Playboy and some of the larger traders I knew in Playbit were also investors. So when I presented this idea to them on a Discord call, everybody was excited. The numbers were great. And the way that we set it up, we didn't make much money to start. We just wanted to get investors. We wanted to build long-term relationships. So everybody was like, let's go, let's run this up. The numbers look great. It's this much to buy a truck, this is how much it makes. And they saw potential like I did in it. So boom, now we had investors. And suddenly I had a new purpose beyond just survival. Yeah, prison time was still ahead, but now at least I had a mission, and every man needs a mission. And with this, I finally had a way to prove to the courts that I was building something real and that I wasn't in the drug business, and now I had some hope. And this partnership with Holix, it felt like it was meant to be. My friend gave me equity in this company, and we immediately hit the ground running. This wasn't just buying trucks and collecting checks. We were building a full-service trucking business. Everything from purchasing and repairing the trucks to finding the freight to everything you can think of that goes into running a trucking company, and it's a lot. And the growth was explosive. We did amazing. One truck became 5, and then 11, and this all happened in 3 months. So watching the fleet grow while my trading was hitting new highs, I finally felt alive again. I felt happy. I felt like I was building something. But short-term success is a great wallpaper. And with the right wallpaper, you never know how many holes there are until you lean into them. In our eagerness to grow, we had made a crucial mistake. We were thinking long-term, charging rates that would build relationships rather than making money off the bat. And on paper, this looks smart, right? Sacrifice the margins now for sustainable growth later. What we didn't count on was the cash flow nightmares that this would create. So we started covering expenses for trucks up front, waiting for our investors to pay us back. And then every truck, it costs thousands in insurance, thousands in maintenance, operating expenses. And a few delayed payments are manageable. But as our fleet grew, well, those delays started compounding. I'll never forget the day that this started the beginning of the end, which was December 16th, 2021. We had a massive insurance payment that came out just as our factoring company was late on paying us. And I remember seeing the bank account at negative $40-something thousand. I didn't even know that was possible. That was the beginning of the end of Holix. So once again, just when I thought I was out, just when I thought I built something good, blew up in my face. After this followed a spiral of death chaos that would have been comical. Like, it is comical looking back on now. But at that point, we refused defeat. We threw every bit of money we had at all the problems. I mean, it was like we just were shoveling our entire networks into a train engine to just keep the fire burning, to keep this train that was heading towards, You know, it was like, you know, you're going on a train and there's the big bridge where there's the tracks that go off into the ravine. That was pretty much what we were doing, and we were just continuously like, let's get there faster, because we just didn't want to accept failure. It seemed like every single day brought some kind of disaster. Insurance company would drop us without warning. The fuel cards got canceled. And this forced us to start sending cash apps to drivers as payments like we were some rookie operation. So then the drivers start quitting. So then the trucks are sitting there. And it's just like one thing after another. And just when things couldn't get any worse, they did. A truck literally burst into flames, which sent our insurance through the roof. And then we invested into a repair shop. We couldn't even barely pay the employees. I mean, it was like the universe was playing some kind of fucking joke on us just to destroy us at every turn. And then came the final blow. The war in Ukraine sent oil prices skyrocketing.
Gas prices
reached a record high for the second consecutive day.
And also the stock market. So what does it all mean for you?
And our already razor-thin margins were completely gone. And at this point, we were done. There was nothing we could do except sell the trucks for the investors and make sure they came out clean. But we ended up with nothing. I remember calling my partner and saying, dude, we're done. And he was like, no. And I was like, we're done. It's over, dude. I have to call Playboy. I have to call Robbie, like, it's over. The game's over. So, you know, at this point I was worried because I didn't feel like just the business was killed. I felt like it was going to take away the only connections that I had left. Because these investors, they weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These were my brothers. These were people from Playboy that had my back when I had nothing. This was my whole life. So these people believed in me, and I felt like I failed them, which was like it was just a really fucked up feeling because they had my back. They always supported me. They helped me become better at trading. They invested in my company. Even when they knew my story, they knew what I was facing. They knew everything and they had my back. And here I was and had failed them. But their response showed me what real brotherhood looked like. When I helped Playboy and Robbie and Glacier sell their trucks, making sure they got their money back, they never once blamed me. They never once looked at it like I was a failure. And they showed me what loyalty meant. Not only did they forgive me, but I remember one day I was talking with Playboy and he told me that nobody who makes it big ever does so without taking tons of losses and failures. And I still, you know, take that advice to this day. And as you guys see in this story, how many times did I fail before I'm sitting here talking to you guys today? So if any of you guys are in that mode where you feel like nothing works, you feel like the universe is out to get you, just know that you have to keep fucking swinging, okay? Because everybody that gets to the point that they want to get to, they don't get there by just making it on their first go. They don't get there by getting lucky. They get there through grueling lessons learned through failure. So March 2022, rock bottom felt like home at this point. The case had been dragging on for almost a year with more and more people turning against me on every court date. And at this point, I fell into the kind of depression that doesn't really just make you sad, it makes you empty. I got fat, I started drinking alone, not the kind of party drinking from my past life in the clubs with all the loud music and girls and all that. This was just the quiet, dark kind of drinking, where you just sit there with your thoughts in an empty house while my girlfriend was working at her serving job. Yeah, she gave up the good job that she was gonna move for and instead moved with me because she believed in me. But here I was, broke, drunk, and fat, a complete loser who is also facing prison time. And still, somehow, she never stopped believing in me. The only work that I could get at this point was DoorDash. And the best thing about DoorDash is that they do not check criminal records very accurately and don't ask questions. So I would deliver food all day and save every single dollar I could to try to build back my trading account. At this point, I completely hated myself. I would just sit in my car thinking about how I went from running a trucking company with investors and trading and doing all these awesome things to now I was delivering fucking hamburgers, trying to scrape by with enough money to be able to fund my Binance account so I could go and max leverage it. So I was trying to fund my trading one delivery of hamburgers at a time. But after months of depression, finally something appeared that had some hope, which was prop firms. I first discovered them on Twitter, which is what I would scroll while I'd wait on orders to be ready to be picked up. Whenever I realized that I could get funded and that I could trade size again, everything changed. I mean, looking back, it was really a blessing that I didn't find prop firms before years of making mistakes and losses, because all of that prepared me for this moment. I remember thinking that I would be excited when this moment came because I'd been working so hard for it. But instead, it completely broke me. The psychological weight was just too much. Even though that I'd traded bigger size with my own money before, this was different. For whatever reason, the pressure of potential that I had, this was paralyzing. And in trading, having hope or excitement is oftentimes more dangerous than being afraid. I'd also built a small following on Twitter, just sharing trades and insights and posting analysis. And I was still doing my live streams on YouTube, still coaching in Playbit, but something was off. Trading these funded accounts messed with my head in ways that I hadn't expected, and to this day I still couldn't even explain. I started doubting trades that usually I would take without hesitation, and ironically, I was still crushing it with crypto, trading my own money. I was calling plays that made other people huge amounts of money, but my little DoorDash funded account was too small, so it felt meaningless. I remember getting P&Ls where people were posting thousands of dollars, and I was up $67. And then with the prop firm, I finally had the size to make real money, but the pressure of that opportunity was destroying my ability to trade. Our success was literally right there, but the weight of everything, the case, the business failure, the pressure to change my life, all this made it feel impossibly far away. And then came the day that broke me. One moment of weakness, one day of overtrading, and just like that, the account was gone. I felt like I had lost the opportunity of a lifetime. The funded account that was supposed to be my ticket, it ended up just being another expensive lesson in how psychology can destroy even the most experienced trader. December 2022, I was watching a David Goggins podcast that led me to his book, Can't Hurt Me. I remember reading this story and it literally shook me to my core because, look at this guy. He was a guy who had transformed himself from rock bottom into something extraordinary. And his story and his words, the way he went through it, made me feel so fucking weak how I'd been handling this situation. But it also planted a seed that I could beat the odds because, if he could remake himself from all of that, then why couldn't I? And then something immediately snapped. And it wasn't gradual, it was just like a switch flipped. I was already at the bottom, so I figured, what do I have to lose? The reality hit, and it was that if I was going to somehow survive this, if I had any hope to being a father to my daughter, if I had any hope to being the man I needed to be, or being free, or any of this, or living a normal life, there was gonna be no half-assing. I had to go all in, and at least if I failed, I know that I tried. I knew that I gave everything that I fucking had. So at 5:30 the next morning, my fat ass was stumbling down the street in a sauna suit. I couldn't even run a half mile. I would stop, gasp for air, try to run again, and I was so fucking fat. I remember my ankles and my shins felt like they were going to explode. I even puked. What a sorry ass, broke ass, fat motherfucker I was. The early morning darkness hid my shame, and as I fought my way to the gym, every single day I tried to run just a little bit further before giving up. But just a little bit further, even if it was 0.1 miles, right? I just looked at it like if I was able to do a little bit more each day, then that growth would compound. I was meditating, journaling, fasting. I was even doing cold plunges at 38 degrees, trying to submerge myself. I just wanted to put myself through so much pain that gave me some kind of confidence to know that I could get through whatever, because I felt like I was a gladiator prepping for war at this point. And this wasn't even about getting in shape. This was about completely dismantling who I used to be and building something new from the ground up. The old me, well, he was a failure. The old me had ended up fat, drunk, and hopeless. The old me, I wasn't strong enough to face what was coming, so I had to become somebody else. My Twitter followers in early 2023 watched this transformation in real time. They saw the 5:30 a.m. posts, they saw the 75 hard, they saw me posting all the daily motivation, but what they couldn't see was the war that was going on inside. And this was the complete reconstruction of a man who'd hit bottom and was relentlessly escaping reality. And I had all these people looking up to me, and I used these posts as a way to hold myself accountable because I knew that if I posted it every day, that there would be people expecting me to post that I was out at 5:30, to post that I was up, to post that I was doing what I said I was gonna do. So I looked at that as the ultimate form of accountability. And over the next few months, I completely transformed. I lost 50 pounds by running myself to death every single day. I quit weed cold turkey after, at this point, 10 years of daily use. I started cooking all my meals at home, tracking every calorie. I was living like I was an athlete prepping for a marathon. And every single small win built some confidence. Every extra mile, every pound that I lost, every day that I fasted, all these crazy things, it was just proof to me that you could reshape who you were if you really wanted to. But while I was rebuilding myself, my legal situation, well, it wasn't going well. My first lawyer had essentially given up. He just kept telling me prison time's inevitable. You're going to prison. You need to give this fight up. And he'd barely filed any motions. He showed no interest in actually fighting the case. And it was pretty clear that he just wanted me to plead out and go to jail so he could be done with it. And then something changed. My trading finally started to click again. And after blowing that first funded account, I had regrouped, learned from my mistakes, and finally started seeing consistent payouts from new prop firms. And finally, I had enough money to take control of my defense. So at my next court date, well, I walked in with a different kind of energy. I formally fired my lawyer in front of the entire court and announced that my new defense team was 6 attorneys led by Noel Tin. And this wasn't just any random legal team. Noel is legendary in criminal defense. So just months earlier, I had been this broken man with a defeated lawyer, fat, depressed, and now I stood in court, physically transformed, backed by an entire team of the best lawyers in the country, and I was ready to fight. For the first time since my arrest, I wasn't just hoping or praying or waiting for mercy or some miracle. I was prepared for fucking war. And the physical and mental transformation was just the beginning of all this, because something else was also building at this time: my influence in the trading community. After months of daily streams and taking trades live and posting on Twitter, I'd grown a small following now, far outside of Playbit, which was about 2,000 subscribers. These weren't huge numbers, but it showed that there were traders that showed up every single day and they traded with me, and I started to build this really tight-knit community. And then everything started to blow up. People asked for more structured content. They wanted me to make videos about my strategy, so I finally sat down and made a video about market maker models. And immediately, this video exploded. My subscribers went from 2,000 to 10,000, what seemed like overnight. The content itself was starting to change the way people traded and simplify ICT, so a lot of people resonated with that. At the same time, my own trading started to reach new highs. And after all the blown accounts, after all the lost opportunities and all the sorrow and sad shit, I started to finally hit consistent payouts. The number in my bank account didn't feel real, because after years of ups and downs and endless boom and bust and failures and restarting again and again from rock bottom, I was finally starting to see success that I'd always dreamed about. And I actually had confidence that I was doing it right and not just getting lucky. This momentum was unstoppable. Every single month I'd get bigger payouts. Every single video I dropped was a 1 of 10 going viral. And I started building real influence in the trading community. I mean, at this point, it was like everything that I touched in my life turned to gold. And the fat loser who was running in a sauna suit at dawn had now transformed into someone else entirely. The broke trader doing DoorDash had now become a voice in the trading community. And the man facing prison, well, now he wasn't going down without the fight of his fucking life. And because of this, my channel exploded to 50,000 subscribers, and it was growing fast. I was getting like 10,000 subs every single month. But still, that prison sentence loomed over me every single day like a dark cloud. And it was like every time I'd win, I would have this thought of, well, you know, it's gonna be for nothing. You're gonna end up going to prison anyways. But there was also something inside me that knew that this had to work. I mean, there was no way that I went through everything that I went through and the universe had brought me here just to send me to prison. But then I would go back and forth and say, well, that's what happens to you every time. You always end up at rock bottom. That's just your story. But I said, fuck that. I said, I'm tired of just accepting that. I'm tired of that being the normal. And I just went delusional. I refused to believe that that was gonna happen. I just wouldn't accept that version of my reality. So I decided to do things differently. I decided to create what I wished I would have whenever I was learning, and not just another course, not just some PDF guide or hindsight videos, but a complete real mentorship. I would teach everything, then trade it live, offer direct coaching, hold people accountable, all the things that actually turn knowledge into profitable trading. So I called this the Smart Trading Blueprint. I attacked this project with everything that I had. I was up at 5 a.m., I locked my phone in the other room, and I would grind until 11 p.m. and barely sleep because the thoughts and the visions of what I was building kept me up all night. And I knew this time it was gonna be different. This time I would build something that actually changed lives, it provided real value, and I would build it right. Every single moment not spent trading or in the gym or running my ass off went into building this company. Because this wasn't just about making money, this was about creating something amazing, something that I would be able to show the courts, my family, and really show myself that I could build something of real value and be successful with it. And this work became my drug. Because any time that thoughts of prison or anxiety crept in, I would just bury them and drown it out in more work, more planning, more building. I remember I would sit there and I would literally visualize my old self dying. The drugs, the Kingpin life, the constant running and stress. I took every step possible to brainwash myself and create a reality where success was the only way. And then came the call that changed everything. I'll never forget this day. Me and my girl were in this high-rise New York hotel called the Dominique. We were eating breakfast in the room. They got delivered by room service. And we were just laughing, having a great time, just thankful for the success I was having. And then I remember my lawyer's name popping up on my phone because it was on the table. And my heart immediately stopped because these calls usually had only brought varying degrees of bad news. It was, you know, I got an 8-year deal instead of 15 at this point. That was the best news that I got. And the negotiations usually went nowhere, or more people had turned on me, or some other new problem was arising. That's usually what these calls were. And with the trial date looming ahead, with a potential 30-year sentence hanging, every single time my lawyer called, it was like a shot of a lightning rod of anxiety. because at this point, my trial date was only 3 months away. So what that means is if I didn't take a deal in those next 3 months, I would have to go to trial and fight in front of a jury. And if I lost, I would get the minimum mandatory, which for those charges was 30 plus years. But I answered the phone finally, and it felt like it was an eternity when I would always say, hello, what's up, Noel? And he'd always be in a great mood. It's funny how lawyers are, you know, they're not facing their life in prison. They'd be like, hey man, how you doing? I was just like, I'm good, tell me, what's up? And he said, well, good news, we did it. You're not going to prison. And I mean, I immediately just like, I remember my girlfriend screaming. Like she just let out this scream. Like it was almost like if you couldn't hear, or if you didn't know she was happy, you'd think that she had been stabbed or something. And she burst into tears and got up and came in there running, just jumping up and down. Like I'll never forget that. And I was speechless. I didn't even say anything. And I think he kind of knew because he didn't even say, you know, are you there? You know, even when I was a kid, when I'd had successes with the trap, or I'd have successes with trading, or when I had success with business, none of that ever really felt real, because all those times from what I was doing when I was younger to when I was making success or having success during the case, it all came with this like feeling of that it was for nothing. I always felt like there was something coming after me, there was something over my shoulder, and all this was my fault. I want to be clear, all that was my fault. I'm responsible for that, nobody put that on me. But to finally have true success and feel a true win without some kind of impending doom, this was the craziest feeling I'd ever felt. It was true happiness, and I'd never experienced that. Calling my parents was like experiencing that jail phone call in reverse. My mom still screamed, but this time it was from joy. And my dad, who previously had tried to stay hard during the worst moments, he finally let his guard down and he cried openly. I mean, I could just hear him sobbing, and they just kept saying, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, over and over again. And when I called my daughter's mother, telling her I'd be there to watch our little girl grow up, you know, these were the moments that I'd visualized. These were the moments that I'd worked for, and this is what I made myself delusional and became a madman for. And after 3 years of fighting, over 20 motions filed, and over 15 court dates, my team had done the impossible. Everybody else had already pled out. Only the people who were caught with cocaine or guns had to do time. And a part of the deal, I would still become a felon, and the cocaine charge would be the one to stick instead of marijuana. But other than that, all I had to do was admit my involvement and agree to testify. But there was nobody to testify on because they'd already pled out. I mean, in a Kingpin case, you are the only person that people want. Everybody wants to testify against you. You are the main target. And since everybody had already pled, it didn't matter that I agreed to testify. There's nobody to plead on. And finally, everything aligned. STB was taking off massively, my students were finding success, my trading was reaching new heights, and most importantly, I was going to be free. The judge set a date a few months out for me to plead to the lesser charge, and 6 years probation and a felony record was the price, which is a small price to pay for a second shot at life after everything that I'd been through. And looking back, I genuinely believe that the reason that played out the way that it is because I believed, because I had hope. And if I wouldn't have went through that transformation, if I wouldn't have given everything my all, and, you know, risked everything. I went into debt to hire those lawyers. I had no idea what was going to happen. I kept fighting. I never took the deals. And if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have stayed strong and truly believed and been delusional, I don't think I would be sitting here in front of this camera right now. And looking back at these journal pages filled with "I will be free" hundreds of times, I remember even visualizing my lawyer calling me and saying, "We did it," just like it happened in real life. It felt like the universe had confirmed something that I'd always known deep down, and despite all my mistakes, I knew I was meant for something better. I even thought that whenever I had made all the mistakes I had. I never did people wrong, I never hurt anybody directly. I know I'm not saying I'm a saint, but I wanted to be good. I wanted to make a real difference. And finally, I wasn't just dreaming or visualizing about my potential. I was actually going to live it. And today, that 5:30 a.m. discipline has not wavered. I'm still in the gym every day. I'm still working my ass off every day on growing to the next level and building my business and building my trading and building myself. But now it's not about running from something. It's about running towards the person that I want to be. And on top of that, being completely sober has given me a clarity that I didn't even know was possible. Trading isn't stressful, and now I'm trading live with my students every single day. I mentor newer traders to not make the same mistakes that I made so they can reach success without having to trade for many years like I did. My success has been nothing short of a gift from God. I've made millions of dollars, I've built the best trading community in the world, and I've helped hundreds of thousands of people for free on YouTube. I'll never forget the day that I surprised my girl with a brand new BMW because she used to have an Altima. And this was the same woman who stood by me when I was driving a beat up Hyundai and she was in her Altima and she was working at Outback. And this was the same person who believed in me when I had nothing but dreams. The only reason she was even working there is because she gave up the good job she was gonna have. She was gonna move to be closer to her family, to have this good job, and she, for whatever reason, she didn't do it. She trusted in me. So being able to give her dream car, being able to watch her quit that job and watch the burden lift from her shoulders, that meant more to me than anything. And that house that got raided by the cops while my mom and I were on the phone, yeah, well, I bought that. And my parents, who once lost everything in 2008, well, I retired them. And now they get to live the life they deserve. I bought my dad a brand new truck, just like he had before he lost everything when I was a kid. My daughter's future is secure, her mom's taken care of, they don't have to worry about anything. And on top of that, I got myself a beautiful home of my own and bought my dream cars. Now, I've achieved everything that I once thought impossible. Once was just a visualization. And sitting here making this documentary, the journey hits different because from that angry kid in a small town lost in drugs, from laying a pool of my own blood to being charged as the largest cocaine and marijuana kingpin in Washington County history, to now somehow becoming a multi-millionaire who's helped thousands of other traders succeed and building multiple businesses that I love running, well, that's nothing short of a miracle. The response online to my story being shared has been overwhelming. Hundreds of DMs flooding in across all platforms, people sharing how my journey inspired them or how they'd been through the same kind of thing. And you know, for years, I did try to bury my past. I was afraid that it would define me, and I worked so hard to distance myself from who I was. I never wanted to be seen as that person again. But you know what? I realized that that person, that is all part of who I am. Everything I went through, every mistake, every rock bottom, every moment of desperation, it all built me into the man that I am today. And I realized that my past isn't a shame to hide. It's the foundation of why I'm so strong and why I'm able to do what I'm able to do. Now, the recent attempts to discredit me have only made me grateful because when people try to tear you down, it usually means that you're building something worth attacking. And ironically, their efforts have given me the push that I needed to share my full story. Now let's address the recent video that tried to rewrite my story. They claim that I fabricated my business background in solar and in trucking, and they said that I just became some overnight trading success after my arrest. And the truth is right here in the documented evidence that I've shown you today. My years in trucking, solar sales, and most importantly, my long journey in trading that was way before 2021. They also said that I'm a fraud and don't trade today, but rather than engage in back and forth accusations, let's do what traders do best and look at the numbers. Now, as you can see here, I'm in my Interactive Brokers account. This is my actual account. I don't know what more you guys want me to do. And as you can see, over the last month, I've made $14,000 on a $78,000 account when it started, which is a 17% growth, okay? This is a small account that I started trading with my mentorship where I trade live every single day just to show them what's possible. Now, I specifically chose to trade this smaller account so I could stay in the trenches with them, to show them that once you make a payout or two, you can actually trade personal, because in this space, everybody thinks you have to trade prop firms, which just isn't the case. Prop firms are a tool to leverage, to make income, to be able to then compound your own account. So here, you look, you wanna see what, I don't know what more you guys wanna see. There's this. Now I want you to take down this account number right here because we're gonna go back to that in a second. Of course, this isn't the biggest month, but earlier this year, I documented making $100,000 in a single month, and I shared exactly how I did it on YouTube for free. And on top of that, check all of these trades with the same account numbers that I just showed you, where I post wins and losses that I post all the time on Twitter, just to make sure that everybody sees the transparency, everybody sees that it's not just all winning. And every single day I trade live in front of hundreds of people, and I have for many years now. They see my entries, my exits, my wins, and yeah, my losses too. Because that's the reality of trading. It's not easy, it's not overnight success, and anybody who tells you different is lying. The truth is, getting arrested to me was the best thing that ever happened. Because with a criminal record, I couldn't get a normal job. And trading wasn't just a choice, it was my only option. My back was against the wall, and I had to make it work. And now I'm so grateful for the pressure that I had to go through, because without it, I might have never pushed myself to this level. I might have never done it. I might have just went and got some real job or some regular job that I was supposed to get. I might have given up. But no, I had to. I had no other option. And the paparazzi doesn't realize that they're just adding to another chapter in my story. Because every attack, every false accusation, it just gives me another opportunity to show the truth through results and transparency. Now here is the deeper, darker truth about these attacks and why they will continue. But first, we need to talk about what really drives human behavior: incentives. Think about it. We all respond to incentives. A worker shows up on time to work because his paycheck depends on it. A student tries harder whenever their future is on the line. a server provides better service knowing that their tips depend on it. These aren't complex psychological theories, this is just basic human nature. Now, these content creators claim they're exposing trading scams for free, positioning themselves as the protectors as to what they refer to as little idiots who need saving. They build their entire persona and brand around exposing people. And it's so ingrained in their business model that they've even exposed each other in the past. The people who are attacking me have exposed each other, which I thought was pretty funny. But if this was really about protecting people, then why aren't they doing it for free? Because there is this incentive behind their little free content on their free website. Their entire business model relies on funneling viewers to their website, which is loaded with affiliate links to prop firms. And in case you didn't know already, prop firms make money whenever traders fail their challenges. The more failures, the more challenge retries, and the more money flows to the affiliates. So ask yourself, whenever someone's entire income depends on traders failing, because the person attacking me has claimed that they've made less money from trading in their entire 4-year-long attempt at it than I made in the last month, well, do they really want to see traders succeed? But let's go deeper into how these incentives play out in reality. Take Fast Track Trader, one of the prop firms that this guy had on his free website. Well, this firm disappeared overnight with millions of dollars in people's money. And I warned traders of this firm months before the collapse. Even more disturbing is their flagship prop firm that they promote on almost every single video and all over their website, which is their main source of affiliate income. Well, there have been pictures posted of private messages allegedly showing that their CEO of this prop firm was negotiating with a trading bot provider. So what was the deal? Well, they would allow the bot only if they could ensure that some of the traders would be deliberately failed. Now you may be wondering, why would they do this? Well, it's quite simple. Every failed trader has to pay for a new challenge or a reset. And more failures mean more challenge fees. And more challenge fees mean more profits for the prop firm and their affiliates. It is an artfully designed machine where everyone profits from traders' failure. And this is the dark reality of how incentives actually work. The same people who claim to protect traders are steering them towards firms designed to make them fail. The prop firms themselves are already incentivized to work against their own customers' success, and it's not even personal, it's just business. Remember, people will always act according to their incentives. In order to get views and build trust, these creators hijack attention from those who actually provide value and help traders win, so they can then funnel them to companies that only profit by traders' failure. And in order to do this stealthily, they have to cloak themselves as a hero, as someone who is saving those little idiots. The little idiots is what they call their viewers. So let's review. The creators attack me for charging for a mentorship while they profit from a system designed to make traders fail repeatedly. Then they call me a scammer while promoting firms that literally disappeared with their traders' money. And then there are alleged accusations that the firms that they still promote cause their traders to deliberately fail. At this point, it's not even about defending my name. It's about exposing and really exposing a system that profits from traders' failure instead of traders' success. They're not protecting retail traders or saving their little idiots. They're farming them for affiliate commissions. Now, let's talk about my incentives. Well, they're rather simple. I succeed when my students succeed. Every time I provide free value and someone gets results from my YouTube, they share their success. They talk to others. Other traders see what's possible. My brand grows organically through real results and real value, not through other people's failure. And these critics claim that I'm scamming by charging for a mentorship program, saying that I'm selling information that's free online. They even spread the false claim that I charge $10,000. But they conveniently leave out that I share my information for free on YouTube. Yes, I provide services at a premium price, but I don't sell information. I sell my time. I sell seats to watch me trade live. I sell accountability coaching and trade journal review, reviewing every single trade that traders take, among many other things. So I want you to think about it like this. You can find every exercise routine online for free, 100%. But still, people hire personal trainers. Why? Well, because transformation requires more than information. It requires guidance, accountability, and someone who has walked the path that you want to go. Now, does that make the personal trainer a scammer? Every single day, I'm trading live in front of my members, not just recorded videos, real-time trading and executing live in front of everyone, winning and losing. I personally answer DMs all day long. Whenever traders are struggling, I track everything. I track their trades, their habits, their daily routines, because real change requires that real level of dedication and accountability. And the reason I know that, well, that's because what I had to go through whenever I changed myself. Because if you don't do that, you won't make it in this business. And on top of that, I'm so confident in the approach that I guarantee traders will get funded if they follow my entire process. Now, this isn't some vague promise. I literally trade live with members until they succeed, because unlike those who profit from failure, my success is directly tied to their success. Every single funded trader, every consistent profit, every life that I change, that is what builds my brand, because otherwise, bad reviews would tear my business apart. Yet, I have hundreds of success stories instead. Now, the difference is clear. They profit when traders fail, and I win when traders succeed and tell others about their transformation. They farm failure, I push for success. Now let's talk about the real results. Not just marketing or promises, but documented transformations. Now some of our best students have had insane results. Take Jaden, who's pulled over $200,000 in profits in just 6 months and became one of TopStep's top 100 traders. Or Jasmine, celebrating a $33,000 payout and making it on TopStep's leaderboard. These aren't just numbers, these are life-changing achievements that came from real traders who put in real work. And here is what terrifies these prop firm affiliates, because every single one of these success stories, well, it's bad for their business. Every trader who learns to trade profitably is one less person who's going to cycle through their failure-based system. Every funded trader is one less customer for their affiliate links. And this is why they attack legitimate educators, hijack their attention, because my success, well, it literally costs them money. But the market is finally speaking. Their flagship prop firm that they promote pulls in 1.2 million website views monthly. A large portion of this is from affiliates like the one that attacked me. Meanwhile, my channel, which is purely focused on trader education and real results, is sometimes reaching 690,000 monthly views organically. Think about that. In just a fraction of the time, we're approaching their numbers, and if we keep growing, their business becomes less profitable. This shift represents something powerful. More and more traders are choosing education over exploitation and drama. So ask yourself, who's really looking out for traders? Those who profit from repeated failure, or those who succeed when other traders succeed? Those who won't even show their face and hide behind exposed videos while funneling people to free website with education from people who can't even trade that lead to firms that benefit from traders' downfall? Or those who give hundreds of hours of free value and run a business that's built on changing other people's lives? I'll let you decide who the real enemy is.